It's a beautiful Thursday morning in Lagos. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. We're staying with the story of the swearing in of new ministers and assigning of portfolios by President Buhari. Recall that on the 31st day of July, the Senate confirmed 43 ministers that were cleared and confirmed by the Senate. And we now know which portfolios each of them do have. Their objectives are set before them. The president mentioned yesterday there is need to improve security, achieve diversified and inclusive economic growth, as well as fighting corruption. Nigerians are concerned, however, if the president got it right this time, if these people are indeed round pegs in round holes. To discuss this new development, I have joining me this morning Deputy Provost of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Dr. Jide Johnson. Good morning and thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Nifemi.
And I also have a journalist and public commentator, Sheyi Adeyemo. Glad to have you come this morning.
Thank you for having me, Nifemi.
I could just call this a journalist hangout. The morning version, you know. All right, so the president is returned now as the substantive Minister of Petroleum. People are saying that. Do you think he's done a good job in the first 4 years to deserve a return? How do you react to that?
Well, for me, I don't think that portfolio should be handled by the president. It should be assigned to a minister, but the president has the prerogative to do whatever he wants to do with respect to that. You recall Obasanjo did the same thing, holding on to that portfolio until his second term. I think it is prerogative of the president to decide who to assign to, and I would have loved if he had extended that prerogative by giving the Attorney General of the Federation to the Vice President, if equal, in view of the enormous work schedule that is assigned to his office, assigned Petroleum Ministry to himself. I think that Attorney General should also have been assigned to the Vice President. I think you made mention that the last time we had to discuss along this line. After all, the reason why you need the minister is because you need foot soldiers to run your agenda. Why is the president holding on to this particular portfolio?
Like you said, I think he's the only person that can explain that to us. We've discussed this severally at several fora, and we said to ourselves, if truly you want to achieve the kind of result everyone knows that Nigeria needs at this time, it is a time to assign this kind of ministerial portfolio to people who would do the job, for me, more like a day job, you know, because then if you have so much on your plate, usually it's a very, very difficult thing to deal with all the things at all times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, Timmy Perceiver is the Minister of State of Petroleum. The word on the street is this job was snatched from a technocrat and given to a politician. Do you think he has a pedigree?
Well, when people talk, then a technocrat should be the president, a technocrat should be the governor. And the time I've said it that sometimes there's a lot of misconception out there. The word technocrat has nothing to do with your level of expertise on us. The technocrat in real terms, from where we borrow civil service from, are the civil servant from the British, are the civil servant. It is the civil servant that provides the technical know-how because they have the institutional memory, because they've been employed over time and they grow within the ranks from level 8, 9, 10, 11 until you become why do you think that they use the word permanent secretary? Because he knows what is permanent, what is consistent in that. So this thing that has been introduced into our technocrats, have you ever seen where they appoint ministers outside of Nigeria, in United States of America, or in Great Britain, that people will come, pundits, commentators, analysts will come and say, oh, they didn't appoint technocrats into the ministry. And I think we hold that responsibility to educate our people and for this thing to stop at now. Once you have, the technocrats are the civil servant.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take, I know you always have an issue with that particular word, but the concern is he experienced in this field? Well, he's been governor for quite a number of years, even though at several times the authenticity of his election was challenged in court. And they will say that a governor is like a mini president. Does that suffice here?
Now, let me explain to you, and I love the fact that he's taking from that angle. For me, this has always been my stand. And I say to people, look, if everyone, and I'm sorry to refer to this, everyone thought when Bolagi was coming in, he was going to turn everything around. Now, I said to people, look, you cannot come into TVC and expect to do everything as the MD if you're not willing to work with the cameraman and work with everyone there. So if you're governor of a state, you must be able to work with people. You must understand how you can use people to deliver on what you want. So if you're going to run any ministry, for that matter, as long as you come in there, the permanent secretary is expected to have all the knowledge because he has rose through the ranks. He understands the workings of that ministry. What you bring is your character and your presence and maybe creativity, leadership.
You're saying experience in that particular field is not necessary?
In most cases, it doesn't. In fact, you're better off without experience, because I'll explain that. And I expect that a lot of people will criticize that. Look, the truth of the matter is, if you don't know, then you are able to play better as a team player when you're able to say, look, let's do this. This is what we're going to do. This is your assignment. In fact, Mr. Permanent Secretary, I know for a fact that you have done this, you have done this, you have done this. So you must be able to deliver. You set the agenda, set the KPIs. And at the end of the day, you would everybody will carry you on their head because you're able to monitor them and make sure that they deliver on their jobs.
It means that
let me just add this. Dr. Christopher Kalode didn't study business.
Yes.
It was at NTNBC.
Yes.
And then he ran Capri
Yeah.
to be a global brand.
Yeah.
You see, people that ruled this nation in the past studied classic, studied philosophy.
Yeah.
Are you getting my point? So this...
But did they do a good job at it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So
the point.
that's what we are saying.
That is the
So-
point.
so
So
the
we should
emphasis-
owe them more on the delivery, not on the
this
qualification.
I get the
Yes.
point.
We are a society that believe in certification.
Yes.
If you go to Okeani market, there are a lot of women that have not gone to the 4 walls of the school, and they are running 30, 40, 50 shops.
Absolutely.
Business that they've transferred from themselves to their children. After all, the mother of Michael Adenuga, where he learned his business acumen, didn't go to any school.
But someone would say they didn't go to school, but the experience they've had in that particular business, they must have learned quite a number more than someone who studied that in school.
In administration. Before, the way it used to work is, so you occupy certain posts like legal advisor. You're expected to be able to, be transferred across the ministry. So you could be your legal advisor of Ministry of Internal Affairs today. They could transfer you to the Ministry of Agriculture tomorrow because it is expected that you've learned in that space and you must be able to operate in all of those spaces. Look, the guy who really runs this place, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of HR, is that small box that you have outside. It's a small box, it's black, it's inaugurates. But if you don't clock in or clock out, they're able to determine who came in, who walked, and who didn't walk. So that's the way...
That's about system.
System. Make sure that people work with you, they're on board with you, and they do their job. And you must be able to penalize them if they don't do the job.
So if I buy what you're saying this morning, we can safely say that the former Osun State governor is in safe hands because he admitted yesterday about not knowing much of the Ministry of Interior. I'm quoting him now. My relationship with the ministry is distant. What I know about the ministry is what I read. in the newspapers.
Well, it's a function of, for me, my interpretation, this is my opinion, is I think it's below or beyond his expectation. And I've analyzed this for people. And I have friends from Osun State and that I call that, oh, you Osun State people, you got a wonderful ministry. First, this is the first time the Ministry of Interior is coming to the southern part of Nigeria in my living memory. Second, the Ministry of Interior is part of the kitchen cabinet of because it has to do with the internal security, the prison.
But
the
now
custom.
the police has been taken away from
the prison, the security, NDDC, and the rest. They are all on that. In fact, it's
yeah.
one of the major employer of labor
Absolutely.
in Nigeria, and one of the revenue point aside oil revenue comes from this particular ministry. So for me, I think that probably he was expecting Ministry of Works or thereabout, having been commissioner for works in Lagos State for 8 years and then been governor. In terms of, he likes infrastructure. I think that it's as a result of
Incidentally, I feel that what he's trying to do is just to set us up. So he's going to deliver, and he doesn't want us to expect so much. So there have been a lot of criticism out there, and he's saying, look, you know what, let's just set a dummy to these people and let them feel that I will not deliver. And at the end of the day, because look, the thing is, before he became a works person, he was doing something else. He came into Lagos and delivered. Now, yes, he probably took that drive into Osun, and obviously he did not do well in Osun. Obviously, I mean, that is the record. But the truth of the matter is, he's saying, look, I want to change that narrative. I don't want them to expect too much. But by the time I start to act on some of the things I'm going to do, you'll be shocked at the kind of result. That is my personal
Like
opinion.
my boss would say, under promise, over deliver.
On a light note, we've seen him one school uniform as governor of Osun. Now, he has the opportunity to work with uniform officers. He can instill the kind of discipline that we've seen him try in that part of the country. So the president has created 3 new ministries: special duties, intergovernmental affairs. We now have police affairs. We have humanitarian disaster management. I'm excited about that. It appears that now we can hold someone responsible for the huge amount of money that we are budgeting for this.
We have that we have never had before is the humanitarian. We have always had special duties.
We've always had,
had special duties and the rest of it. For me, I think, you know, Nifemi, you know my position with respect to the number of ministers we should have and the number of ministries that we should have. We shouldn't have more than 18. I've said it over time. 3 part.
The president tried out 36. There must be something, there must be a reason why he reverted to 43 now. 43.
Well, it is prerogative to appoint. The Constitution makes a provision that you must have a minister from each of the states of the Federation. Yeah. However, we have 43. And in the past, what we have had is 42. Now, which was with Obasanjo administration, pick across the 36 states, plus Federal Capital Territory, and then one from each of the geopolitical zones. But we didn't have that arrangement, because we have arrangement whereby about 9 ministers are from the northwest, in terms of the distribution. But it's the prerogative of the president. As far as I'm concerned, we have a lot of duplications. Duplication in the sense that what is the human disaster management and environment? I'm asking you. I'm throwing it to you. What is? It's a function of air splitting. I've said it. The American ministries is no more than 13. And so when they have their cabinet meeting, it's a small room. There can be constructive and meaningful discussion. But here we are, it's a constitution, and it should be a challenge for us.
But you don't think that it is
for
relevant?
Us to amend the constitution.
You don't think that this ministry is relevant, given the huge challenges we're having?
Now, the minister, you have created a ministry, you have permanent secretaries, you have this. You know, we have always thrown spotlight on the legislature. We have never thrown spotlight on the wastages of the executive. Look, I said it, in Lagos State, for example, we have 40 House of Assembly members. The cabinet is 40 commissioners and special advisors. That's the actual number of Lagos State, and each of them will have more cars. If one of the legislators in Lagos State buys 1 car, we'll scream blue mother. But all the commissioners plus their aides, we have cars. If you look, and I think 2019 to 2023, our satellite should go, the same satellite we have thrown on the legislature in terms of expenses, buying cars and rest, we should throw it, furniture allowance, we should throw it on the furniture allowance of the minister, furniture allowance of the commissioner, and the rest of it, so that we can reduce wastages. You see our budget. Majority, the largest chunk of our budget goes to what? Recurrent expenditure, not capital expenditure. This will add to our recurrent expenditure.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, what if they perform extremely well? Isn't that going to overwhelm all of the costs that have been spent?
I mean, obviously not. So you're talking about income and expenditure. So right now, where we are, we're at deficit, where people who are running from we couldn't pay salaries of certain teachers, certain people in states across Nigeria. We're at a state where we need to heavily invest in certain infrastructures. So if you are now investing in people, then you will ask questions, because I mean, I guess that's what my brother is saying here, that look, if you need to invest agriculture, for instance, I believe as a people we have not invested sufficiently in agriculture. If we really want to turn that space around, it is a space we need to really invest in, not in the people, but in the things that will make the ministry work. For instance, I mean, I'm still wondering, if you were going to split ministries, why are you having someone occupying the Ministry of Information and Culture? Tourism has been argued over time as one of the highest earning ministry all over the world, but it seems that we're not seeing it. We're still still giving information and culture to one minister. And I'm saying, really, if you're really looking at splitting ministries, that's a space you should really have a minister sitting, and the person must be given a mandate to deliver on that. So sometimes we look at the way we spend our money and the kind of result we get from it. I really don't understand it sometimes, but like you said, it's a prerogative of Mr. President, and we just hope that at the end of the day, people would benefit the most out of this.
But you're concerned about money, but there are just 43 ministers. How much money are they going to earn that is going to impact so much on the polity?
43 ministers plus their aides, plus their assistants. The impact is, and then you also have permanent secretaries. You have, for me, like he said, we look at critical drivers. What is the essence of separating power, steel, and mines? Power, steel, and mines used to be together. Are you with me? Put all this ministry plus petroleum as Ministry of Energy. Power, steel, mines, and petroleum as what? As energy. That's one ministry. It's also, you see, but in Nigeria, you know, it's a multi-ethnic, diverse country, and then you have to, political patronage has to
in the last dispensation, we had the Ministry of Works, Housing and Power put together.
Yeah.
In fact, before the assignment of this portfolio, many people had said that the president really needs to lift some burden off Mr. Fashola's shoulders. He's done that now. He's taken power from him. And doesn't that defeat what he's saying, that if you have an energy ministry, for instance, it's still also going to overwhelm whoever is carrying that responsibility?
I think we should take it back to where we started from when we started this ministry. I probably am one of those who believe that all the argument was not tenable, because you see, it's not him sitting there. He has an army that works for him. So it's not, we don't expect him. For instance, you're saying, okay, so you took power. We had thought that he was making some strides in the power sector, and we had thought that if they were going to take anything off him, it would not be
It would be housing.
Yes, not power, because in my opinion, that was where he showed the more. It was more out there as regards turning the space around and all of that. And so we had expected that most of the things they had started would have been given the opportunity to see that through. You know, so it's been taken off him, and that is not for us to decide. So what we are just saying is, if you are going to look at anything, it's about empowering the structure and system. No, so it's not just about the man that is sitting up there as a minister, because at the end of the day, no matter what intelligence you have, if you don't have the team player sense, which I call the street sense, you are just going to sit there, play around, and at the end of the day, nothing happens. But if you're able to make people work for you, you'll be shocked at the kind of result, even when people thought you can deliver, because they feel you don't have the expertise in that area. But if you have the expertise of a team player, and you're able to call the permanent secretary, the director, the deputy director, all of those people are the people who do the job at the end of the day, really. You know.
Where we have monarchical system of government, where you are born to rule.
Yeah.
Which expertise do people look for?
Do you agree with the school of thought that Babatunde Fashola will now perform better with one portfolio taken away from him?
Look, power sector has always been a problem. Jibola Egerton, in general, dynamic of blessed memory was in that power sector. It's an area, and I think that I would love to work with this president. You know why? This president enjoys and gives out tremendous loyalty, in the sense that you see that ministers have been retained in some certain portfolio. The chief of staff have not been, the chief of staff and the army chiefs have not been, the service chief rather, have not been changed. And if you work with him, he has a degree of loyalty. Once he trusts you with power. With respect to performance or non-performance, what are the indicators that we are going to use? I think, like he said, I think Fashola should have retained power. Now that federal government has promised to inject 600 billion naira into that, and if you see an area in which he was very, very vociferous about, he was very proactive about, it's about that power sector. Now we talk about reduction, taking away from Fashola, and another one has been added to the Minister of Finance.
Yeah.
Now budget and planning has been added to that.
They call her the power minister now. She seems to be the one who
the power minister, which takes us to which takes me to another issue which I've looked at concerning. One, I commended the president for putting his cabinet in place, because you need the cabinet to run
Yeah.
to run the nation. However, as a Nigerian, I'm talking as a Nigerian and as a player in the system, I think that there's a measure of diversity that we must bring into play. Otherwise, people that study history will ask questions in the future as regards what role did we play and what step did we take toward. If you take, for example, like I said earlier, Nigeria is a multi-ethnic society. Nigeria is divided into geopolitical zones. The president is from the Northwest. 9 substantive ministers plus the president, making 10 are from there. There's no minister of state from the Northwest. The Northwest alone has the Ministry of Finance, has the Ministry of Petroleum, and the Attorney General of the Federation. The basis of our coat of arms is what? Peace, and unity.
Yeah.
You know, the interesting thing is a contradiction. Nigeria is a country of contraptions. You can never have peace before unity. It is unity before. It should have been unity and peace. Diversity in what? In unity. So we must have, and this is where the party system, stronger institution needs to come. We must have the spread. There must be a spread of, like you said, concerning Interior. This is the first time Interior. A Southerner has never been the Minister of Federal Capital Territory. To my living, the 2 ministers of Agric are from the north. The 2 ministers of health are from the south. The Ministry of Finance, Aviation, Attorney General, Power, Defense. Oh my goodness.
How relevant is this perception to this? Because again, here we're talking about the issue of federal character. But then the president says he needs to work with the people he trusts. And perhaps that's why it took him time to even tell us who these ministers are going to be in the first place. Is this relevant, really?
The truth is, I'm a little careful the way I comment on this, and I'll explain why. Because I'm one who believes that if you really, really need to deliver, you need to be certain about who you choose and run with. But having said that, like he rightly pointed out, so we're running a federal state, and we are a people that are very particular about that, even to the extent of having a particular quota for admission into universities. So if we look at all of those things, then we must always take that into cognizance. And I'd said to myself, so if you'd work as a military person, it means that you should have been able to build your network across Nigeria. Then it'll be easy to have known and have friends and have families across Nigeria. So when people want to bring up that card, it is easy. You just go into your friends and people you still know who can now be from here, there. So nobody would be able to fault you in that area. And so those are my concern. But for me as a person, I mean, the truth of the matter is, if you know you can deliver, for instance, as far as I'm concerned, during Obasanjo's, and we blamed him as a Yoruba man, that, oh, the people who were his kitchen cabinet, none were from Southwest. And I'd argue at that time that if the man felt a need to work with people who could deliver, then it is his prerogative to do that. But the concern is, so as a leader of this kind of society, and having the advantage of working in a space that should have allowed you to have built network across the space, I think that shouldn't have been any problem at all.
Do you think that this also would absolutely not matter if these people will indeed perform well?
For people who belong to my school of thought, it probably wouldn't matter. But so we're not the only Nigerians. There are a lot of Nigerians who would always play that card and say, look, Oga, this is the way things are distributed across. In everything we do, whenever you're picking up, even in football, surprisingly, you would be shocked that when the coach is picking his team, no matter how skillful you are, sometimes you are benched because the man wants to be sure that he's playing players from across this geopolitical. So if that is the case, if I'm going to be aspiring for that office, I should put that in my mind and say to myself, all right, I should have built some network across so that I have Yoruba friends, I have Igbo friends, I have House. So that at the end of the day, it's easy for me to pick from those things so nobody comes to me from that angle.
Dr. Johnson, it's absolutely true that we cannot shy away from this. For instance, some FCT indigenes had approached the court that none of their people were appointed on this particular
like
cabinet.
My local government, since 1999, my local government, talking just narrowing down, being passionate about it. my local government in Lagos State has never had commissioner since 1999. The highest we have ever had is special advisor. And in this present cabinet...
Which local government is that?
Ifako-Ijai. Even in this present cabinet, we didn't have anybody. So talking about spread, you see. So this issue is about giving people a sense of belonging, that we are all partakers, not showing that some are higher class citizens.
Let's move on very quickly. Some surprise portfolios, like they call them, expected to be named the Attorney General and Minister of Justice after the nature of questions he handled during the screening at the Senate, especially his perspectives about unbundling the Supreme Court. Festus Keyamo is now Minister of State of Niger Delta. I have read a lot of comments about this. You must have seen one say, this is an interesting combination. He was a prosecutor in a particular case, and then the suspect has now become his boss. Do you consider this a square peg in a round hole?
Truth of the matter is, I, as a person, personally now, never saw him as becoming the Attorney General. I believe that he had not build enough muscle to be able to play in that space. So as a person, I don't believe that nothing has been done wrong as regards not giving him the portfolio. And because it is the prerogative of Mr. President to choose who he wants to sit on that seat, he has chosen the person he wants. Now, for Keyamo, I believe that it is an opportunity for him, because he's a new player in this space, to deliver and show the people that it was a good thing that he was even nominated as a minister at all. Let him bring his energy, let him bring all the things he has done in all of the things he has done before into this ministerial space. And let us see him perform. And it will not be a surprise, maybe tomorrow, that he's now given that Attorney General that everybody thought he would get, because he's not the only lawyer, he's not the only son on this team. So I'm wondering why. For instance, he said, why can't we even give it to the vice president in the first place? Because you have situations where you have the deputy of Lagos State, governor of Lagos State, being given the Ministry of Education, because they believe that, So I don't know why people felt strongly that he was Keyamo's backtrack.
My opinion, and I agree with you, that is not matured enough to handle that office.
But
my opinion.
Do you consider the former Akwa Ibom governor, the personality of these two individuals, too strong to work together?
If you are just quoting my tweet, I said it will be an interesting ministry that we have two strong personality. And you remember while we are talking about ministerial nominee, I said that this cabinet is full of a lot of strong personality, and one of the things that the president must do is to know how to manage the ego. And I like what the president said during the retreat, that you know what, if you want to see me personally,
go through the
chief of staff.
Chief of staff.
If anything has to do with the cabinet, please go through the Secretary General of the Federation, delineating responsibility. And then I listened to a soundbite from that retreat where the president was saying, we agreed. We talked about consensus of opinion. And I think that managing the ego is critical, because this cabinet, you have a lot of former governors, a lot of former ministers, and senators.
All of them are former something. They've heard several things.
So let's take a short break here. When we return, we'll open the phone lines and also explore more there is as we get Mr. President's new cabinet. Stay with us. Welcome back. We now have 43 substantive ministers inaugurated by President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday at the State House. And I'm joined by Dr. Jide Johnson and Sheya Adeyemo. Thank you for staying the course on the program. Now, there are just about 7 female ministers, and there are people who are saying that this is not... in fact, I read a tweet by a female colleague who says woman right, that we're finding it difficult to understand that woman right is human right. And the fact that this does not also tally with the promise that Mr. President made in 2015 of giving 35% affirmative action to women. So we have 7 of them, and 5 of those 7 are occupying junior ministerial roles. How do you react to that?
I think it's important that we be emphatic on that. It's not just a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing. Globally, everyone is beginning to say it is a time where we start to have parity in the way we distribute offices. Unfortunately, Mr. President promised. And that is something you cannot do as a leader. You should not go back on your word. You cannot say, I'm going to do this and not do it. So for me, I think it's something that he should have done better. South Africa, they have 50-50 in there.
Ethiopia, Rwanda have already achieved
Everywhere.
50% gender balance.
I don't understand it because for me, when the world is tilting in a direction, what we do as a people is we tilt in that direction as well. And so if the world have gotten to this point, is a build-up. All of those things have been done over years, and we're at this point where everyone is now saying, when you want to do this, this is, you give fair distribution. I think that's what and this is not fair.
Dr. Johnson, if we're talking about ethnic balance, should we also be looking at gender balance?
You see, on the issue of gender, I have my reservation with respect to that. Like in the last 15, 20 years, we've been talking about the girl child. If you are focusing on the girl child, you are not focusing on the boy child. If you prepare the girl child, who is the boy that is going to marry the girl child in the future? Now, masculinity has dominated the landscape. We are bringing the issue of feminism and gender equity into it. In the next 100 years, it is masculinity that will come back because focus. I think that in that area, it should be about are you competent enough to do it? For example, if you look at Lagos State, let me come on. In the past, we used to have governor as a male, deputy governor as female. On the face value, we say, oh, the men have taken over. But if you go to Lagos Civil Service, which is the brain box of any public policy formulation, you see that it is dominated by the women. It's dominated by the women. So sometimes when we look at things on the face value, we might think something is not being done. So if you look at MDAs, agencies of government, and the rest of it, at the federal level, how many of them are being manned by women? And that's the area I think that
but all those are
advocate of this affirmative action should look into.
When you talk about performance and capacity, the argument will be that, come on, there are women who are equally capable to occupy these offices. And if we have problems with certain people coming from the north, then we should also be concerned the majority of them are only men. It's important because if we keep doing this, we are saliently passing the message to the younger women that, well, the top is not really meant for you, at least not in this part of the world.
Don't forget that the North is conservative in his approach. This was one of the accusations that was leveled against Donald Trump when he considered his cabinet. It was predominantly dominated by men. You must understand the dynamics, the dynamics of every given society. The dynamics of every given society. The first time we had a northern female deputy governor was in Kaduna. Is in Kaduna. Then is in Kaduna where Elufai nominated a woman. So it's a conservative society, and 19 states of the 36 states we have, plus the Federal Capital Territory, is predominantly conservative in terms of orientation.
Please let me hold you for a moment to take Reverend Dominic's call. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Femi. How are you?
Terrific.
Good morning, my friend Johnson. How are you today?
Good morning, Reverend.
Dr. Johnson, this morning, the lawyer said somebody blew cold and hot. In one hand, you are talking about, you are giving us an idea of a lean cabinet, which they can come together like in America and discuss. In other hand, you are saying, well, we have to bring, balancing the whole geographical state in Nigeria to come into the cabinet so we can balance it. As long as we have a nation that's big as Nigeria, the power taking life, the power holdings are taking the power. Can you see hear me?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. As long as we have a big nation this way, balancing the what I call the cabinet through every tribe and every tongue will be difficult. But if we have a nation we want to move forward, we must find people who can make this nation work. Johnson, this morning, I was not thinking about the cabinet. I was thinking about the way Nigerians die every day. If it's not the military will give power, maybe police, that kills civilians, it's the civilian banditry armed robbers that kill police. Every day police die. Every day civilians die. When do we stop this blood shedding in our nation so we can even move forward? There will be no cabinet working if we continue in the kind of insecurity we have found ourselves in this nation. If we continue dying every day, no, there's no security. There's nobody that's secured. Police themselves are not secured. Military is not secured. How could civilians be secured? And if there's no secure society, with 200 ministers, with one minister, nothing could work. And number three, please, we must remove this, narrative of where we come, where we do not come. By history, I'm a historian. If where we come solve problems, there was upon a time the Minister of Finance from Southeast, the CBN from the Southeast, the Army Chief of Services from Southeast. Today, Southeast is still in terrible, in pain, and in shame. So where we come doesn't solve problem in Nigeria.
Maybe they need a president.
We must find a way to govern this nation without thinking where we come,
all right.
where we don't come from.
Thank you so much.
That's my contribution this morning.
Thank you for your contribution, Reverend Dominic. Well, there are different ways to look at this, and I love the perception that we should not be too concerned about where the person comes from. But we can't totally shy away from
it. Absolutely. I mean, I agree. Like I said earlier, as a person, I would not tilt towards that way. But you see, then me and Reverend Dominic might belong to the same school of thought, but that is not the perception of everyone. And if you really want to be fair to everyone, then you must take most of the things into consideration. Yes, leadership, you're expected to be focused, to be able to determine and do what you want to do, to ensure that you achieve your objective. But then you must be fair to everyone.
Absolutely. Before we move on, it's important that we talk. So after all, we're all journalists here. There is a member of the cabinet who has about 30 years of journalistic experience. As a matter of fact, we were expecting him to be in charge of communications. Sunday Dare is now Minister of Youth and Sport. They say every journalist must know something about everything. How do you see him performing this new task?
It's an assignment that has been given to him, sports and youth development. Don't forget that he was in NCC. And then it's a digital age. So the second, and I listened to his opening speech, and I think that he tends to emphasize that youth development. And the largest chunk of our population is how do we engage the youth? The youth live online, they live digitally. How do we ensure that they can participate actively in the digital space? And I think he's been given a fantastic. And then don't forget that sport also is a major employer if we invest in sport. You see, when people talk about the good old days, if you remember the good old days, stationery stores was functioning. NEPA of Lagos, ACB football. We grew up watching football in this Lagos. Sport is a major employer. Why do you think that America invests in NBA, invest in baseball, why do you think that the English people invest in English Premiership and the rest of it? Until we pay attention to sports, that we provide sporting facilities, so that those that cannot go to school, that have unbridled energy, can channel their energy to sport and achieve their dreams.
There are some who are saying that he must now brace up to deal with the dirty politics that currently exist in that sector. But let's take this caller very quickly from Arotuku. Good morning, Okorafo.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guests in the studio. Good morning, Prof. Doctor. Honestly speaking, now that the ministers have resumed and some yet to resume, Nigerians are waiting for them. At least come 100 days in office, the ministers should be coming to this channel and brief Nigerians what they have achieved and hear from Nigerians what we need to. Because this time around, we need what implementation. Because 4 years before you talk Jack Robinson, and 4 years around the corner.
Yes,
we no longer want this of paperwork, talk. Last time I made mention about juicy ministry. Now, you see, the juicy ministry, Igbo and the people are started complaining, right? That is by the way. The juicy ministry, what do I by juicy ministry? Juicy ministry are that ministry where you have different types of different parasites under them. at least the minister, at least there is hope for him to get an extra credit. That is what I'm saying about justice ministry, which everybody knows. As we were talking about something, there is something that I know from VOA issue as a journalist. But the thing is, as he's a young man, at least vibrant, all this short. When you read the news magazine, when he was on the desk, you know that it's an authority. Honestly, I was very happy that Nigerians have given started committing. I pray that other ministers also should do what to work at. Like, if what we want is action, no longer talk.
That's all right.
Very much have a blessed day.
Thank you very much for your contribution. They say youth is relative, especially in Nigeria. Some of the diaries were above 50, and well, you must still consider that youthful. When you consider the age of the president and many of those who are leading us, then you have to consider 50 youthful. But let's talk about the politics of relevance. In the previous in the past 4 years, we saw some form of contention between some power ministers and their governors. Some are concerned now that we have political bigwigs as a member of the new cabinet, how do we ensure that there is no clash of interest between them and their state governors?
How do we ensure? I guess we will just continue to clamor for the fact that they do the job, because if you really are busy, you will not be as preoccupied as they were with the politicking. And of course, some people will argue and say that the reason why they have the office in the first place is because they're political actors and that they need to cater to that as well. So to ensure that it's a very, very Herculean task is not something that we can make happen, because then it is upon the players themselves if they would take their job more seriously than the politicking that we see them all do. But truth of the matter is, you truly have very, very big political weeks in this.
Joshua has called in from Irewolide. We're going to get back to that. Hello, good morning, Joshua.
Okay, good morning, Nifemi, and good morning to your guests.
Good morning.
I want to speak on the petroleum ministry and the president being the minister. I think there's something about this president that may take a while for us to understand. I want to look at the results of the last 4 years. There has been some relative peace in that industry. And I'm surprised, because for 4 years running, we haven't had any major crisis. There's something about the president that we need to understand. So I still love it that he's keeping that ministry. And the Minister of State is a good one. It's also a political ministry. Because if you put a novice in that ministry, I'll tell you that NMPC is a humongous political organization. There's nothing professional about it. So I'm happy that he has a politician to back him up. And then Akpabio and the young man Festus, I'm happy for him. I think Akpabio is technically going to mentor Festus. We should see it as an opportunity for him to do well in future. I'm happy about that. And I think as a people, we should start talking to ourselves about the kind of country we want. That's what will really change us later.
Thank you very much, Joshua, for calling in. Should NNPC be a political organization? I recall that the former Minister of State of Petroleum had a big issue with the DG at some point. Well, they say it is the politics of it all, but shouldn't we focus on the systems?
It's a major revenue point. That's where the resource of the nation comes from. And politics is about who gets what, when, where, and how. Going back to what we were talking about before, the caller from Irewolide called, there's no way you can going to separate politics from all of these things. And that's why that some of this cabinet, in terms of the structure, the way it is put as an analyst, and making projections about 2023. Because there's no way that you say Akume and his godson, his ex-wife godson, the governor of Benue State, and then there's no, and then the same thing Akpabio and the governor of, and the governor of, we saw what played out between Wiki and Amechi. So all of this, the political aspect will definitely play out. The political aspect will definitely play out.
And if it is not well managed, it might impact negatively on the work they're supposed to do, isn't it?
Look, it's 2020, 2021, 22, we begin to see the landscape of the Nigerian politics. Because by the time we get to that stage, we know whether we want to play politics or we want to run public administration, because the fight for who succeed
is also
the
going to
president
surface.
comes in. And
Let me
there are a
hold
lot
you
of
very shortly to take Judge's call from Ikeja. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Nifemi, and good morning to the guests as well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nifemi, I wouldn't want to look at the subject from the prism of ethnicity, where the minister comes from, which zone or which section of the country. What to me is paramount is the performance. That is the one that affects people. If a minister comes from my village and doesn't do anything for my country, or even for my own village, what benefit does it bring to me? My concern in the portfolio is more about retaining the ministers that were retained. They all went back to their former ministries. I don't. To me, there's a mistake there. If you look at education, for example, I didn't see any meaningful impact that minister made in the Ministry of Education. I would have loved the Minister for Information to go to Keyamo if he cannot go to Minister of Justice. People are saying he's not mature for Minister of Justice. But the man that is there now is not more mature than Festus in terms of experience and training. Be that as it may, the president must have had his own reasons for putting them where they are. But if he were to hear my suggestion this morning, I would say as a way of checking ensuring maximum performance, there should be a periodic review, a periodic assessment. If you put somebody somewhere for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, you watch and see whether he's following your, the schedule, or whether he's performing. If he's not, reschedule. I mean, put him to where he's more competent.
Absolutely.
That wasn't done in the past, and I think the president should try it this time around.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution, George from Ikeja. 6 months might just be a little too short to try out. For instance, where we work, we have the key performance index. So they find out if you're doing the job that you're told to do and how well you're performing at it. We hope that that can also be adopted at that level. And he made a point with the education ministry. At some point, we had the highest number of out-of-school children in the world. And when the former minister, who is now a substantive minister yet again, was at the floor of the Senate, he made mention that they are trying to take out some millions out of it. We hope that it can do a better job. But let's get back to the politics thing. My opinion here is that it should be a blessing. If we're running at gaining more votes in 2023, it should spur us to perform better. But has that always been the case?
Unfortunately not, and I agree with you that that should be the case. If you really want people to vote for you, it must be about your performance and how you're able to impress the people that you're able to do the job. But unfortunately here it's about how much you're able to even take people out, because then it is about the strength, and sometimes you're even confused about the way the strength is measured. For instance, sorry for mentioning name, Akpabio, for instance, at some point people thought he was standing alone and that he was out of the game because for whatever reason, in his place, everyone else was against him. But I mean, look at the way this is panning out. It's panning out as if he has played the right card and he has taken the right decision. And for instance, as minister of the
Niger Delta,
is probably going to be in some ways supervising his governor, because
in some way.
So sometimes the way we play our politics in Nigeria, sometimes you just wonder, because ordinarily it ought to be about performance and how popular you are with the people. But here it's about how you are able to tag along with the right person, and that determines your
Lucky has called in from Port Harcourt. Is Lucky still there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Good morning. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, my contribution is concerning the 43 new ministerial that came up yesterday. They called them the new level. Hello?
Yeah.
Well, with you.
Yeah. Those people that they just bring, why did they not bring a new people and mix up with those 43 people that came up yesterday? And now, like Port Harcourt now, the road in Port Harcourt now, you cannot from Aba to Port Harcourt. That road is extra bad. East-West Road is the same thing. You cannot from Rumokoro and go to Choba. That road is extra bad. And we are talking of next level. And the man that called the party next level is doing nothing in this country. Nothing is going on. Nothing is happening in this country. Everything is down and down and down.
Oh, come on.
Like now they talk about how many billion they are going to share.
What a pessimistic way to look at it. Anyway, I think that you made your point, but not everybody. I mean, we see things differently. There are some people whose roads to their houses and in their places are really very good. But then we hope that things get better in that area of the country. Absolutely. That's what Nigerians understand. It doesn't matter who occupies what. It's about, am I enjoying, results, and is government doing what my needs are. We have to go now. Ministers must pass the submissions to the president for his attention through either the chief of staff or the secretary to the government of federation. And the president insisted yesterday that violation of that channel of communication will attract consequences. We're hoping that this is going to plug the hole and ensure that there is smooth communication in this new cabinet. Gentlemen, we have to go now. We're going to continue this conversation some other time. But I must say thank you to journalist and public commentator Sheyi Adeyemo. It's nice to have you on the show this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
Dr. Jide Johnson is Deputy Provost of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Hanging out with you.
Uncle Yoruba, we're back tomorrow with another exciting one. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Good morning and God bless Nigeria.